Welcome to My Spoonie Sisters, featuring stories from special guests dedicated to empowering those with chronic illness. Our goal? To connect people and provide the support and tools they need to live a better life. For those with chronic illness, our energy levels just fade faster. We must be more purposeful with the spoons allotted to us. So grab your coffee or tea, sister, and tune in as My Spoonie Sisters share stories of living with chronic illness. Hi, my Spoonie Sisters. I'm your host, Gracefully Jen, and I have the pleasure of sitting down with Stefanie, and she is a nurse practitioner living with RA, and I'm so thrilled to have her on here to tell you all about who she is, what she's about, and what she does. Hi, Stefanie. Thank you for joining.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So let's start by having you tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So my name is Stefanie. I am a family nurse practitioner living with RA, and I'm also the founder and CEO of Rheumatoid Arthritis Coach.com.
Okay, so you have rheumatoid arthritis, as do I. So that's your diagnosis. When did that all begin?
So looking back, as I'm sure a lot of us can relate to, it's kind of been my whole life, but it got really bad right after the birth of my first son, who is now almost 9. I had my first child. You deliver and you think you're going to come home and take care of this little baby. And it started with my left thumb. My left thumb just would not work at all. It was swollen, painful. I had no range of motion, and I wasn't able to hold him, feed him. Changing the diaper was totally out of the question. So that's when it started.
So when were you formally diagnosed?
So I was diagnosed right around when he was 2. So it took me a good 2 years to get all the workups and whatnot.
Okay, so it started in your thumb. Did it begin to move into other joints as well?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. It definitely started in my thumb and then went to all 10 fingers, and then my wrists, elbows, neck, and then feet and ankles were shortly after.
Okay. So what was your experience like? Did you have any other symptoms? What was it like going through all that?
Well, my story is a little unique because I had just had a baby. So I had a lot of weird symptoms. You're a little overweight from the birth of the child, and then like your fluids are kind of off. So you're still like swollen, and then you're exhausted, but you're up with this baby all the time. And then, I went back to work 6 weeks after I gave birth. So I felt exceptionally exhausted. And then physically, I felt really exhausted because I was working where I had a very physical job and caring for a baby. I was on my feet all the time. So I think my symptoms were very vague, to say the least.
What made you decide to finally seek out some help?
So so from the birth of my son, I had started seeking help right away because as a nurse practitioner at that point, I was already an NP for like 8 or 9 years. I'd already had a lot of experience in healthcare. And I had you go to your OBGYN, right? You go there first. And then I went to my primary, and I've shared many stories because at first it was my weight, that I was so overweight and I needed to lose weight, which is like so hard for any woman to hear, let alone with RA, right?
Absolutely.
And then after that, I lost the weight. And then after that, it was that I was depressed, that I had postpartum depression, and everybody kept offering me antidepressants or medicines for depression. And it just wasn't that wasn't working. That wasn't helping. I was not depressed at all. I was unexpectedly in a very good mental place after having my baby. And then I went to this one doctor, and this was when my life changed forever. I sat there and I told her I've lost weight. I have a great lifestyle. I'm not depressed. And she told me that I need to take strolls with my baby. She said, put your baby in a stroller and take strolls. And I wanted to punch her in the face. Not that I ever would do that, but I was so frustrated because I was like, strolling with my child is not going to help because you're not hearing me. I can't push a stroller. I can't make fists. I can't walk for any period of time, let alone to go to the bathroom and care for myself. Other people in my family are helping care for my baby because I can't. So at that point, I decided to seek counseling. I was like, all right, I'm not going to get a medical diagnosis. I'm going to do the right thing, go to counseling. I've shared this story multiple times, but I went to multiple counselors who just didn't understand what I was saying. And this third one that I went to asked me if I wanted to work with clay, like do clay therapy. And I was like, what is going on? Like, no, I cannot use my hands. Why is nobody getting this? I was so frustrated. So at that point, I found a different primary care provider. And of course, she was one of these, the certified, naturopaths that do all the homeopathic treatments and whatnot. And I went in and she was a great listener. She heard what I said and she validated my feelings. And she recommended this long list of supplements and this very strict diet. And I did it and it didn't help. It didn't help at all. So some people it helps, some people it doesn't. So I went back and again, she really wanted me to do like these natural remedies and homeopathic things. And I said, do you mind if we just order these other screening labs for like autoimmune things? Because something isn't right. And, she kind of said no. And I have a medical license. So I kind of went and ordered my own labs and went back to her. And my labs were, of course, positive, like textbook positive. So at that point, she was like, well, shoot, I guess we need to get you into rheumatology. And that was that. And then just like everybody else, I waited, I think it was a few months before I could see a rheumatologist. And that was when I got what I needed.
Wow. And I wonder if she was embarrassed because she obviously didn't listen to you and you had to go around and do this yourself. And that it shouldn't be that way.
It shouldn't. In all fairness, I do think that all of the medical providers I saw along my journey were kind and they were trying and they were offering me the best that was available. I don't want to ever say that I was gaslighted because I don't feel like I was. I think women's bodies are really complex, especially after birth. Absolutely. And so I think it was just a hard diagnosis to make. And she probably was a little bit, but I'm not upset with her or anything like that. And I don't even think she lives in our state anymore. So I haven't seen her since like that last appointment.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm glad that you've had good experiences with the people that you've seen, despite the fact that it took so long to get there. I mean, at least you had people that were trying and they were doing the best with what they had, because sometimes it is kind of a mystery. And sometimes we're not textbook cases that are an easy decision. And so many of these autoimmune conditions, they overlap so much that it is really hard to figure it out.
Yeah, well, I think I was just a really hard case.
Yeah. And you had a lot going on.
Right.
So is this kind of what got you going and deciding to be a rheumatoid arthritis coach?
Exactly. Because so after I got diagnosed, I, of course, right away started Googling support groups or this was almost 9 years ago. So there really wasn't like Facebook groups like there are now, or there weren't these podcasts. There just wasn't this community of support quite yet. So of course I get online, I try to look and, you can go to websites that we've all been to and type in your zip code and see like if there's a support group in your area. And there was nothing. There was like one, 400 miles away. And then I tried to find a counselor that, focused on chronic illness or even invisible illness, because I thought they would be able to help me more. And it was a total dead end. I couldn't find anybody that really could understand this or had any kind of program or guidance to provide me. So from there, I was honestly just really frustrated and I felt alone and like I had nowhere to go for support. And I thought, if I'm an experienced medical professional and I can't find help, something is wrong and I need to fill this void. And so I decided that day that I was going to start the first support group. I live in Las Vegas, Nevada. So I started the first support group ever for people with arthritis in our city. And it was a huge success. And it was the coolest thing I've ever done. It went really solid for about 3 years. And then I had a second baby, and I passed the torch and let other people take over. But it was so amazing. We had this group, we met once a month, and every other meeting we would either meet in person and do, like mental health exercises or support type exercises. And then every other month we were off site. So I call them field trips, but I would arrange like field trips. We would do like anti-inflammatory cooking or like one of those paint and wines. They were very popular back then. We went to like a Reiki session, a Pilates for RA. It was really cool. We arranged all of these really fun outings or field trips. So then from there, I thought, wow, if I can affect, the 30 people that come to this meeting every month in my tiny geographic area, imagine what I can do with an international online audience. And after 3 years of doing in person, I launched Rheumatoid Arthritis Coach. And now it's amazing. What I do is amazing. I help women manage their rheumatoid arthritis through lifestyle and mental wellness. And it's been really life-changing for me. And I think many, many women that I've worked with.
That is so cool. And honestly, I'm shocked that you didn't have anything nearby you. I don't believe
nothing.
That.
And I'm in a huge city, right? I mean, I'm in Las Vegas.
Right. I would think you would have dozens around you. But I think that's so cool that you just saw that void and you went and filled it and made this awesome thing. So now that you're doing this online, what does that look like? Does someone reach out to you and do like a one-on-one chat? How does that work?
So all of my coaching is one-on-one only. I decided that when I was diagnosed with RA, I wasn't ready for a group program, or I just wasn't ready for a pre-recorded program. I wasn't in the mindset of that. So I wanted to provide something that could fill that void. So all of my coaching is one-on-one only. When you meet with me, we meet every week for about 50 minutes, and it's 12 sessions total. Usually it comes out to about 4 months because there's always like a holiday or, a day off in between. But we go through everything from diet, nutrition, to the education about rheumatoid arthritis and the science behind it, to all of the mental health and all of the activities that help strengthen our mental health around having an invisible illness. And it's actually been really great. When I first launched the program, I said it was 12 weeks. And so far, I've had a 50%, I call it a retention rate, because 50% of my clients that signed up for 12 weeks have continued to sign up for an additional 12 weeks since signing up. So it's actually been, it's been really rewarding. And I think the women I work with would agree.
And I think that just goes to show that you really did fill that space and that need. And you're obviously doing a really good job of people are coming back.
Yeah, so, it's been amazing.
Do you do like an email list as well?
I do. I have a newsletter. I'm also on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest. I am pretty easy to reach. Actually, if you Google Rheumatoid Arthritis Coach, I think I'm still the first thing that pops up, which is pretty cool.
That is really cool. And you do a lot of fun reels, but very educational as well. I noticed, I think it was last week, you did the one with, oh gosh, I'm going to butcher this. Top 5 things. What was that? Oh,
maybe for a physical exam.
Probably. Do you want to tell us about that? So I don't butcher it?
Yeah, sure. So I'm relatively new to TikTok. Of all the medias, I'm not exactly a camera personality, but I'm trying because I do this to help people. And there's a huge audience on social media that I just wasn't reaching to help. So that's why I decided to do it. So I'm relatively new to TikTok, but I decided it was going to be educational. And I would try to not be too silly. So far I do mostly top 10, and they're my top 10 tips for you probably saw how to prepare for a physical exam.
Yes, that's
Because,
the one.
yeah. So I'm a family nurse practitioner. I do still practice. It is actually required of me to continue to practice to maintain an active license. So in addition to my coaching, I do still work in medicine. And there are so many things that I feel like I can share with people who are patients, not just rheumatology patients, but just humans who go to a medical appointment, that I feel like are very simple things that can better prepare everyone for everything about the healthcare system. So that the last one was just how to prepare for a physical exam, and just tips and tricks I've learned over years that I wish more people would know. And then we would have more time together in the visit. So hopefully they help.
I think it's incredible that you are trying out all these different places to reach people, because I swear I preach this to everybody. If you're not trying all these different ways to reach people, you're keeping your audience very, very small. And if you're wanting to help people, you really got to be courageous and branch out. You know, I'm in my 40s. It's not something that I thought about when I first started, that I could embarrass my children by being on Instagram and creating things. I don't know if you worry about that, but you know, my kids love me. They're over it.
Luckily, my kids are still too little to know, but I'm sure it's coming.
You know, I'm scared of TikTok. I use it a little bit, but I think that's amazing that you're out there and you're just doing it. You're killing it.
Well, thank you. It's like I said, it's not, I'm learning how to do it, but I'm doing it to help more people.
Absolutely. And I think the more that you are out there and just spreading on all platforms, the more you're going to help more and more people and just spread it around, which is a big need, as we have discussed.
Yeah.
What are the top 5 things that you would say are in your spoonie toolkit?
Ooh, the top 5 in my spoonie toolkit. So first and foremost is my mindset, for sure. Of any chronic illness, any spoonie, any whatever you want to call it, my number one tool is always my mindset. And I use something that I did not create, but I found through other opportunities. I call it the model. And just very briefly, it's CTFAR: circumstance, thoughts, feelings, actions, and results. And basically, when you work the model, you see that circumstances are things you cannot change, but you can control your thoughts about your circumstances. And therefore, you have full control of all of your feelings at all times. And that's my number one with anything in life. Plus my rheumatoid arthritis is just that you have to figure out what's a circumstance, what you can control, and then stay in control of your emotions all the time. Because as soon as you give up that control, you lose all of your power and you just lose the battle against whatever you're fighting.
100%.
So that's number one. And then my second would probably be technology. And I know these probably aren't things that, it's not like a simple list, but technology has been my friend, because I can stay up to date in my medical practice. And also I can stay connected with so many people through technology. I mean, just the technology you and I are chatting through right now is, this wasn't even here 10 years ago. It's crazy that you can buy like a laptop right off the shelf now that has a camera and audio this good. So I think that's been the next step, not to mention the adaptations that technology has allowed me with RA, like audiobooks or voice to text options. Just the success that I've had in life because of those technological adaptations have been remarkable. After that, I'm pretty basic. I would have to say like NSAIDs, compression gloves, and rest would be my last 3. Yeah. So that, but my top 2, I think, are what would allow me to live my best life every day.
I think that's a great list. I think it's quite similar to mine. In fact, the compression gloves are definitely on my top 5 for sure.
So I know we're just on audio, but this is where I work every day. And I actually have like 3 pairs like sitting right here. I thought it was funny. So
Okay, you're definitely like me. I usually have 5 pairs in the drawer next to my bed and another
Yep.
2, 3 pairs in my purse. And
Always, in case I get one dirty or yeah.
yep, a big shout out to Grace and Abel. They make the best compression gloves. They're adorable, they're comfortable. It's an incredible company with amazing people. They're so kind. And if people haven't checked it out, go check it out. They're the best.
Agreed.
Have you tried their wrist brace?
I have not yet, but I'm going to. It's just I haven't gotten there yet.
It's not something I have to use very often, probably only like once a year. But I love how soft it is, and I can still use my hand without feeling like it's just stuck in one position. So it's really nice.
Wow, that's awesome.
Okay, so what advice would you give to others that are dealing with similar issues?
So anybody struggling, whether you know what you're dealing with or not, right? Because there's so many people on a journey that don't know their diagnosis yet, is I always say there is just so much hope. You cannot ever give up hope because maybe there's not a diagnosis today or a medication today or a specialist today or right now, but there will be. And I would almost promise you that in your lifetime, you will see more medications, more options, more advances. So just don't ever lose hope. And a bad day is not a bad life. I think that's somebody else's saying, but I totally agree. And I've been saying it forever too. But remember, you can have a bad day and it's okay. You could take a break, but don't give up. Never give up completely because there's always new things coming out and new hope with rheumatoid arthritis.
Absolutely. What would you say has been a defining moment for you?
Calling all spoonies. As a host of a chronic illness podcast, nothing lights up my day more than hearing from you, our incredible listeners. Whether it's a topic close to your heart that you want us to uncover, or you are keen to show your own journey as a guest on our show, your voice matters. Living with chronic illness can often feel isolating, but through the power of podcasting, we can come together as a community to uplift, educate, and inspire one another. Your stories, insights, and questions drive the conversations we have and the topics we explore. So if there's something on your mind, a story that you are just itching to share, or a guest you'd love to hear from, don't hesitate to reach out. Your voice is not only welcomed here, but celebrated. Let's continue to amplify the voices of those living with chronic illnesses and create a space where everyone feels heard, supported, and empowered. Together, we are stronger.
I would say that's a really tough question.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, I don't know if I can pick one moment, but I think when you have rheumatoid arthritis, your whole life is kind of a journey. It's not really about the destination. So I think there's been a lot of moments that sort of have accumulated to having. That's a tough question.
It's a tough one. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I would say probably my best defining moment was when I officially launched Rheumatoid Arthritis Coach. It was tough. It's tough to reach an audience that has not had any resources before. And it's tough to reach people when they're not expecting support. And it's tough to get through. A lot of times people would reach out, but there was so much hesitancy and so much speculation in what I was offering that it was kind of hard to get through. So I would say my proudest moment was probably after a first year of officially launching Rheumatoid Arthritis Coach and knowing that I was successful, and then getting people do testimonials for me that I then post on my website, and reading the testimonials that these people said. I would say it was all just a cumulative defining moment that was beautiful. And then I would say probably the one thing that stands out the most in that is I worked with this one lovely, lovely woman way back in 2020, which was a long time ago. And last year, her son reached out to me in an email, and he wrote me this. I mean, it was so long. It was probably 6 or 7 paragraphs. He wrote me this long, beautiful email about how I have touched his wife, or excuse me, his mother's life and their whole family's life. And that he is so thankful to me for all these years later for working with his mom. And it was just like the sweetest email ever, because, it's one thing to help one person, but then to know that years later you helped their family and their adult children, and they're actually living their best life. I would say that was probably the cumulative effect of my best defining moment.
You're changing lives one person at a time.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to switch gears a little bit. What are some of your hobbies?
Hobbies. So I actually love audiobooks, which I somewhat recently discovered when I had the diagnosis of RA, because I really can't hold books, especially if they're big or heavy or hardcover. And so I wasn't reading at all when I was first diagnosed. And I really missed the adventure and mental stimulation that came with reading. So my number one hobby is definitely audiobooks. I love audiobooks. Second, I actually love to garden. And if you've ever been to Las Vegas, you'll know that we have like sand and terrible dirt. And in the summer, it's like 1,000 degrees. So gardening is very challenging in Las Vegas, but a good third of my yard is garden. And I grow vegetables, fruits, spices, herbs. Last year we had some more like spaces built out to garden, but I love gardening. And I think it is so fun to grow your own food that you then eat. So I would say those are my top 2 hobbies. And then after that, I do have 2 small children. They're almost 9 and almost 6. And then I have golden retrievers. So I'm a big mom. I'm a mom of boys. I'm a mom of dogs. And I would say that takes up all of my time.
100%. So how has RA changed your hobbies? Do you have to, obviously you talked about the audiobooks instead of holding books. Has it changed gardening for you? Do you have to do things differently, accommodate?
Definitely. So I didn't garden before I had the diagnosis of RA. When I was first diagnosed, so after I had my son and then I was first diagnosed, I was really sick. I was home a lot. And when I was home, I was like laid up home, like in bed, on the couch, right? And so the hobbies that I had had as a young person before having a baby just weren't feasible. Actually, I've shared this before, but I was quite athletic. I played competitive soccer on an adult league, and I ran competitively. My whole life was about being an athlete. And it completely changed with my diagnosis. So after being on the couch or bedridden for like 2 years, I decided to start gardening. And I started with a tiny little plot, like 3 feet by 3 feet. And it just kind of went from there. I would say if RA has done anything, it has made my hobbies more valuable to me as a person, because in some way you just appreciate life so much more. And, before I would, get to work and say, I'm going to take the stairs because I have to take the stairs, right? I'm supposed to take the stairs. It's good for me to take the stairs. I should take the stairs. But now I go to work and I look at the stairs and I think, today I'm going to take the stairs because I can take the stairs. And I don't know when I won't be able to, but today I'm going to. So I think hobbies have really come to this point where I do them because I want to be awesome and I want to do something that really fills my cup, makes me happy, is a good learning experience for me. Also, I definitely choose hobbies now that I can do on good and bad days, right? So like with gardening, sometimes there's a lot of physical labor involved, and on bad days, I can't do that, right? But on bad days, you can definitely spray a hose, right? Or throw some seeds, or you can even just sit and admire your garden, right? So I think that there's different hobbies that allow you to have like a variation in what you do and how physical or how interactive you are with them. So I would say if you're trying to choose a hobby, try to choose something like that you can modify.
I think you kind of touched on it too. It's all about that mindset. If you have the mindset that you cannot do that hobby, then you're not going to be able to do that hobby. If you go in with a better mindset of, okay, I might have to do this hobby differently today. Like today, I'm admiring my garden. That's okay.
Right. And that's totally okay. And that's part of the hobby.
Yeah. Well, where can listeners find and follow you?
So the best place to find out more about me is rheumatoidarthritiscoach.com. That's my website. I'm also on Facebook. Stefanie is my first name with an F, Stefanie. My last name is Rheumatoid Arthritis Coach on Facebook. Instagram, I'm Rheumatoid Arthritis Coach. And I'm pretty sure that I'm connected with many of our Spoonie sisters and friends. So I'm sure you can find me on their lists and websites and tagged in awesome posts.
Definitely. And I will have all of your links in the show notes so people can easily access you just one click away. Before we close out, is there anything that we haven't discussed today that you'd like to mention?
Yeah, if you are even thinking about reaching out to me, you should. That's what I tell everybody. There's nothing scary about me. I'm very nice. I do this to help people. So let me know if you're interested.
That sounds great to me. Well, thank you for joining. And to our listeners, until next time, don't forget your spoon.
The information, opinions, and recommendations presented in this podcast are for general information only. Consult your own physician for any medical issues that you may be having. The information should not be taken as a replacement for medical, clinical, professional advice, diagnoses, or medical intervention. My Spoonie sisters and guests will not be held liable for any of the consequences of such action or inaction. Trigger warning. Some episodes may cover sensitive topics including, but not limited to, suicide, abuse, mental illness, and chronic disease. You are advised to refrain from listening if you are likely to be offended or adversely impacted by any of these topics. None of the guests or hosts will be responsible for your use of the information contained therein. Life is not merely to be alive, but to be well. Living a life with a chronic illness is best described with one word: unpredictable. Be Well's products are designed to make the unpredictable easier to deal with. Back when I was getting my infusions, I would have loved to have their adult zip hoodie. They even have one in pink. They also have everything from one-day pill holders to urgency buckets. So remember, they want to make your life a little easier. So be sure to check out Be Well.